What's going on there, guys? I'm making this because enough people have asked now, and I think it's time just to put it all out there so everyone understands what took place with me and Hubsan. So this is going to be everything from the beginning. I apologize if this is long, but this is going to be quite the explanation of everything that took place between drone worship and Hubsan, so you guys have an understanding. I don't care who calls me a liar. I don't care who says that's not accurate. I really don't care. You're not me. You didn't go through it. You have no idea. Okay? So you can say whatever you want to. This is fact. This is what happened. This is everything that took place to date. Alright? So, about over a year ago, I purchased a Hubsan 501S. Now, bear in mind, I've already had other quads. I've had Hubsan CX20. I've had some really good birds at the time that I had Mission Planner installed on. And honestly, once my Hubsan CX20 flew away on me during a mission, and I never got it back, I realized I had to purchase another bird. And, you know, I knew the Hubsan wasn't as good as what I already had because I had it rigged up with a gimbal, an FPV system. Like, it was just a beast. It was a beast. And I put a bunch of money into that Hubsan CX20, making it an angry little quad, but it flew away. So I didn't have the money to buy anything else decent at the time, so what I did is I went and I purchased a Hubsan H501S, which was fresh on the market. And I got it, and I brought it home, and I played with it, and you know, I was quite surprised by the features for the price point. It was a very good bird from my understanding at the time, and I still think it is today, but we'll go into that. So this is from the beginning. So I got the bird, and I was out flying it, and the box told me that it's capable of 300 meters of range, which I don't doubt. I think it is capable of 300 meters of range, but not 300 meters of FPV. And so I was only getting like 90 meters of FPV, which isn't a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? It's not even quite 400 feet. So I was a little irritated that I kept getting drop-off. So anyways, what happened was I started to tinker and modify. And I got a hold of Hubsan. They released some firmware to me, and I started to play with it. And the next thing I knew, I had built a beast mode firmware package for it that they called Superflyer, but I used 3 different firmwares to make my Superflyer package that wasn't the one that they offered, and all of a sudden I had a bird that was capable of going, and I never posted these videos, but I just want you to know I had a bird that was capable of going almost 2,000 meters, okay? And that started this whole Hubsan video making thing. I was so impressed by the bird that I just kept doing things to it and doing things to it, and the next thing I know, I had this very large Hubsan following in a short span of time, modifying the antennas, testing all the firmware, making tutorial videos, explaining compass calibrations, everything. Like, I just had this massive Hubsan following all of a sudden. And you know, I had never really wanted a partnership. I never really was thinking about having one, but what I was doing was setting out to help everybody I possibly could with their problems, okay? And I mean, I was investing a lot of time helping people. Like, I just didn't have much downtime. I would be answering close to like 400 and 500 comments a day. It was ridiculous. It was crazy how much work I was putting into this, and not asking for anything in return. And I started putting my email address in there so that people could explain their problems better, and we could communicate on a more personal level. And then if I felt it was necessary, I would give them my phone number, and we would sometimes communicate for hours fixing people's problems. So I invested tons and tons of personal time into this Hubsan product and helping other people. And at one point, I started getting all these people saying, "Hey man, you know, I thought you were tech support for Hubsan," and I was like, "No, I was just doing it to be a nice guy." You know, and they said, "Well, why don't you reach out for a partnership?" And I said, "Oh, you know, maybe I will. Heck, I had enough people saying it at this point that I just said, what could possibly be the worst thing that could happen?" So I called the Hubsan in California. I called their tech base, and I got a hold of Annie, who transferred me to Kevin, and I talked to Kevin. And, you know, I said, "Hey, Kevin, I'm the drone worship guy. I'm sure you've heard a lot about me. I'm sure people call with questions about my videos." He says, "Yes, I know who you are." And I said, "Okay, good." I said, you know, these people want me to talk to you about some kind of partnership or something, or sending me your products for testing or whatever. At the time I was really kind of new to all this, and Kevin said, all right, well, why don't you make me a video, saying why you want the partnership and a little bit about yourself. And I said, all right. So what I did is I made a video. If you guys remember this, some of you that have been following me a long time, I made a video, and basically in the video I said, I'm not going to tell you about my credentials. I'm not going to tell you who I am. What I am going to do is let all these people that I've helped comment in the comment section and show some love. Like, I'm just going to let you guys answer whether I'm worth Hubsan's time or not. And everyone went out of their way, man, to make sure that Hubsan knew that I was a good person, a good, person to bring on board, to do, whatever, tutorial videos or just help videos or testing their products, whatever. Like, the outreach was incredible. And, it was kind of mind-blowing for me. The problem was, after that video came out, all of a sudden I got a mass number of emails, and I mean ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was somewhere upwards of like 12,000 emails over 2 weeks, and I was just blown away by the amount of people that needed help. And I did my best. I tried to communicate with these people. I said, hey, what's your problem? And then, after knocking out 15 or so emails, I was exhausted. I was like, this is crazy. I can't help all these people. So I started saying, hey, why don't you get a hold of Hubsan Tech Support? And the majority of the people I talked to said they did, and Hubsan chose not to help them. And that's when a little light bulb in my head went off, and I said, I have a conscience. I do. I have a conscience. I cannot back a company that is not going to help the people that spend their hard-earned money to purchase their products. I can't do it. I can't force myself to do it. I wouldn't feel right in the end putting out all these videos about a company that's not going to help people that purchase their inventory. And, at that point I went, this is really crazy. Like, I did not expect this kind of outreach from people, and this mass number of people that needed help. That aren't getting help from Hubsan, that are having flyaways, that are having problems. And this is just the start of it, guys. We're going to go deeper. Okay? So if you thought this is where it ends, it doesn't. So I got a hold of Annie, and I said, Annie, this is crazy. These people need help. And she's like, oh, well, just direct them to Hubsan Tech Support. And I said, apparently the majority of them have. And when I say, hey, why don't you check out Hubsan Tech Support, I'm getting their email. They're forwarding emails from your tech support team back to me to show me what the conversation was and how you chose not to help them, or your tech support chose not to help them. And that, to me, is mind-blowing. And Annie's like, well, just do your best. And I was like, no. This isn't how this is going to go. So for another week, I decided to start changing my video format a little bit by saying things like, hey, I'm not affiliated with Hubsan. I have no affiliation with Hubsan products. They're not sponsoring me. They're not doing this. They're not doing any of that. This is all me doing all this myself. And then I got an email from an individual who worked. And this is where things start getting really crazy. Okay, I got an email from someone who works in the Hubsan testing department, who, let's just say, I don't know if it's a he or a she, sent me some emails with some of their beta data that they got from testing, and let's just say some real screwy stuff was going on with Hubsan. So if you guys remember TOD, Tumble of Death, right? These birds were hitting like a 40, I can't even remember what it was. It was like a 45-degree angle, and then the motors would shut off and it would just fall out of the sky like a rock. Believe it or not, that was built in as a fail-safe by Hubsan, and the testers knew about it, and they still released the bird to the general public. That is crazy. That was just crazy to me that they did that. And I started going, man, so they're not only aware of it, that it's happening, but they're the ones that introduced it to the firmware and to the bird itself. They knew it was going to happen. So basically all these people were flying around and the birds were just falling out of the sky. Okay? We call it TOD, Tumble of Death. And they knew that that was going on, and they weren't replacing the people's birds. They were just telling them, well, sorry, we can't do anything for you, so people would buy another one. That's just a start, guys. That's a start. So this is, at this point, I went, wow, this is crazy. This company really is not trying to help these people. And that's when I started making a little bit more negative Hubsan videos, saying things like, you know, I have no party affiliation with Hubsan. Okay, if you guys need tech support, you need to get a hold of their tech support team. And I started giving out their numbers. Here's Kevin's number. Here's, like, I was giving out their personal information so that I was trying to assure these people would get help. Okay? Then we went through what I call the firmware apocalypse. Okay? They started producing these firmwares that were causing flyaways, random flyaways. They weren't being specific with how they were setting up their firmware. So there wasn't a firmware chart saying if you live in this side of the country, this is the firmware you need to use. So people were just downloading random firmware from their website they were offering with no guide to what they should be putting on there. So all these birds all of a sudden just started flying away on people. And it wasn't even, I found out later on, it wasn't even really firmware related. It was that they were sending birds that had the wrong firmware to different areas of the country. And so these people, like, that were supposed to have stuff in the southern hemisphere had firmware that was designed for different areas. And then all these birds just started frickin' flying away. You know, so at this point, I was just blown away by the amount of problems that Hubsan was having. And I just couldn't fathom what was taking place. I couldn't even, like, I had no idea what was going on at that point. I was just like, how is this company still manufacturing birds and getting away with it? So that's when we put out the Hubsan Hitler video. If you guys have not seen that, just look up Hubsan Hitler video on YouTube and watch it. It's very amusing, but it had a very stern message to Hubsan. Okay? Even though it was designed to be a bit amusing, it was also designed to be very harsh at the same time. So they have an understanding that I am well aware of what is taking place at this point. I still haven't gotten my response back at this time. At that time, I still had not gotten my response back about a partnership. Okay, I was choosing at this point to throw the partnership completely out the window. I didn't even want it. Okay? So after I made the Hubsan video, the Hitler video, 3 days later, Kevin got back to me with his response. And his response, and I'm going to show you that email right here so you guys can read that. Let's just say I sent him back a message that I'm probably not going to show just because I was a little irritated at the time with how they were doing things, but let's just say that I kind of went off on Kevin and I let him really have it. I said, dude, I don't want your partnership. Even though you're telling me that you're denying my partnership, you talked to Sam, the CEO, and you're denying my partnership, I didn't want your partnership. I'm well aware that you guys know what is happening. You are more than aware that your quad is having problems and you're still selling them to people and you're getting over on people. That irritates me. Okay? I'm not happy. Just let's put it that way. I'm not happy. Okay? And so anyways, Kevin at the end of his email said some really, like, hey, if you start making us sound good again, we'll reconsider your position for your sponsorship. Kevin watched the Hubsan video, he watched the Hitler video, and he showed it to his CEO. That's how far that video actually made it. Okay, and that's when they decided to turn my partnership down, which at that point I had already said I don't want the partnership. In my head, I'm like, I cannot sponsor these people. I don't want to. They're not doing what they need to do to help the people purchasing their products. Quality control at this point has gone out the window. They're having all sorts of problems, FPV fall off, flyaways, firmware issues. Like, I was just done. And so anyways, a little bit after that, I made a few more Hubsan videos. And then we got to Sammy, okay, which is Ron's son. Sammy has some issues. He's got some, I can't remember what we call it here, but he's got some issues, man. So anyways, Sammy was flying his 502E, okay, the little $89 one, and it flew away. It just randomly flew off. We don't know what. The signal maybe got hijacked or whatever. He couldn't shut it down. We never got it back. So at this point, I've already left Hubsan alone. I've stepped away. I don't want anything to do with their company anymore. But I reached out to Shally Liu, and I said, hey, Shally, okay, my friend has a son who, on my advice, purchased your 502E and it flew away, I would like you to replace it. Please. For free. I helped your company sell probably close to 100,000 units with my videos and never asked for anything in return. Okay, I was doing it just to be a cool guy and a hobbyist and all this other fun stuff. And at that point in time, she said, no, we're not going to do that. I can't trust that it actually flew away. We don't just give people birds. Mind blown all over again. Okay? We're talking about a little kid here, alright, who has some problems. And this was fun for him to fly. And I didn't feel that it was necessary for us to replace the bird because it wasn't our fault that it flew away. I'm fairly certain it was all Hubsan's issue. And I wanted them to replace the bird. And you would think after all the stuff I did for their company and helped them make all this money, they could replace a kid's toy drone. They chose not to. But you know who did? We had a YouTuber reach out to us. I'm not going to mention names still. We had a YouTuber reach out to us that not only purchased one, but bought two. He bought the same bird that we already had for his kid, and he bought another one. So Sammy got two drones from just a nice, kind YouTuber. Okay? But the company couldn't even send out an $89 toy to this kid? Are you serious? That's when we started hashtag Justice for Sammy. Okay? So now we've spiraled through 3 or 4 different phases of Hubsan here, and it still continued to go from there. Alright? So I kept getting all these emails from people, hey, help me with this, help me with that. I know you don't like Hubsan anymore, but can you help me, can you help me, can you help me? And as you can see, it took a mental toll on me to try to continue with that company. Like, I still have the bags under my eyes from dealing with all that situation. It's not that I'm fat. I didn't have these bags this bad until I started dealing with Hubsan, and now they've never gone away. That's how stressful that whole situation was. Alright, and it continued getting worse, and finally I just said, that's it. I'm done. I'm stepping away from Hubsan altogether. So, 17 minutes of me talking to you, you now know the entire story to date. Okay? That has been the Hubsan. Dan versus Hubsan. Drone worship versus Hubsan. And I'm done. I don't want anything to do with their company. I hate answering Hubsan questions now. If you have any inclination, the amount of frustration and irritation for me dealing with that entire situation when all I wanted to do was be helpful and be a nice guy to everybody, I ended up becoming the bad guy in the end. Like I said before, you live long enough to be the hero, you also live long enough to become the villain or the bad guy. It happened. That is the story to date. It took almost 20 minutes to tell that story. I apologize. Most of you probably won't watch this whole thing, but if you do, feel free to comment below. Me and Rich Tree talked about this. I told him at some point I would put a video out explaining the entire drone worship versus Hubsan, and I'm going to label this video as that. And I don't care who says what in the comments section. Okay? I know what I went through, and I have all the emails for everything to prove anything I need to. Alright? So, why I don't deal with Hubsan anymore, now you know. Alright? Drone worship, and I'm out. Toodaloo.